Hey, coming to you live from WRUE in Tennessee. It's the Scribbling Women.
Hi, I'm Nancy Rue. I am the scribbling woman, and so are you. And that's why we're having this conversation. Here we talk about the writerly life that is unique to each individual writer, no matter your age, the season of your life, or where you are in your career, even if you don't think you have one yet. You're a scribbly now, so let's chat. Today is kind of a red letter day for the podcast because for the first time we have an in studio guest. I'd like to introduce you to friend and fellow scribbly, Andrea Chatman. Andrea is the author of Beneath the Deep, which is a romantic suspense thriller with sea monsters, and it's also inspirational. And it's an amazing book. And in fact, it was a finalist for the Selah Awards in 2022 and the Christian Indie Awards in 2023. And it is published by Elk Lake, in case you want to get yourself a copy. She is a regular contributor to Clubhouse and Clubhouse Junior magazines for kids. And she volunteers at the Science Museum in Cartersville, Georgia, close to where she lives. The day job that she has in order to support her writing habit is as a disaster scientist, which is so fascinating. And you will find that expertise in her novel. It's appropriate that we should have Andrea here with us today as our first in person because we're going to be talking about dreaming in community. We have this idea that writing is such an isolated thing. And we think of Louisa May Alcott holed up in her bedroom at the Orchard House in Concord, Massachusetts, writing Little Women in 6 weeks and having people bring her food. That does happen sometimes. For most women, it does not. And we ignore the possibilities of group dreaming at our peril. You know, when you sit around with your lattes and you take your shoes off and everybody has their laptops and their pads and pens, and you're just talking about your stories. Usually when people refer to this kind of thing, they call it brainstorming, which that didn't really work for us. It doesn't sound creative, and it's so much more about your soul than about your brain. One of our younger scribblies refers to it as spitballing ideas, which as a former teacher did not land well with me. And Andrea actually thinks that's kind of gross. So, Andrea, what do you like to call it when scribblies get together and they share?
I liked it when we had talked about this being dreaming in community.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a really good explanation.
Yeah, I like that because that's where the creative conversations happen. You have a novel out there on the market. When you were in your planning stages, did you do any of this creating in community?
I did do some, not as much as I'm doing now, because I was first starting off. But I did a little bit with my dad. He's a scientist too. So I talked with him a lot about the plot and ideas. And Nancy was my first writing mentor, and she definitely helped me with immunity that just to stretch out a little bit more, get a little bit more of a, hey, this doesn't quite work. Like, what do you think? You know, and so there's an instrumental part in the book that Nancy is key for. But yeah, I couldn't have done it without her. Definitely.
Well, there was this character, the man in the flannel pajamas, and
Well,
I
there was
said,
that too.
"Are
Yeah.
we ever going to see him again?" And
Well,
and so that's become kind of our catchword, right? What about this man in the flannel pajamas? Was it fun?
it was fun.
Is that fun
Yeah,
to do that?
yes.
Yeah. What is it about it that makes it so much fun?
I think it's you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
There's especially when you're dealing with other writers, they all understand you and they've been there and they know what it's like to have a world trapped in your head, just trying to get out. And
Exactly.
yeah.
Nobody thinks you're crazy. Nobody's
Right.
going to go, and she's a little bit woo woo. Let's move on.
Right.
Right
Yeah.
now, as you're working on the sequel, Andrea, what would you like to turn to a fellow scribbly and ask her?
Well, we did the Scribbly Share, which I love. So we get to share a little bit about, or a little snippet of 2 to 5 minutes of a scene. And we had just done my book as part of the book club. And so I shared kind of like the possible opening scene for this. And my question was, would you read more? What do you think? But I definitely will have more questions as the book fleshes out. But
Right.
for now, that was really helpful.
Andrea's talking about sharing Scribblies Live, which is something we do in the Scribbling Women. And every couple of months, people who want to can share that snippet, and we ask specific questions. And in doing that, I think we're all aware of what we don't want the people in the conversation to contribute. What would that be? What do you not want to hear?
If I'm asking a question about how did this make you feel, or I don't care about the sentence structure, or how many commas are in there, or just tell me. Yeah, don't worry about that part. That'll come later, definitely. But just tell me what you feel.
Exactly. And there's also that, oh, you don't want to do that. You haven't actually asked this, but I think, and of course you can get into a whole conversation about the Oxford comma, which, it can devolve that rapidly. So then what are the characteristics of the people that you want in this conversation? It's kind of like for you, Andrea is really into escape rooms, which I knew nothing about, and can't wait to give that a try. And you really particular about the 5 people that you bring together. You want them to have certain characteristics. So how does that apply to dreaming in conversation?
You want fellow dreamers. You want people who will understand, but maybe will also challenge, but are a safe, creative space. Mm-hmm. So you want people who are just excited to be there and excited that you're writing and excited to hear something. But not, I think Scribblies, we have a really unique feel, like a really good community that you don't always find everywhere. Sometimes critique groups or writer groups, everybody's very protective about their things.
Yeah, because there is a big difference between this dreaming in conversation and having a critique session.
Yes.
A huge, vast difference. And there was one situation when some Scribblies in Colorado all got together and they were doing this dreaming together, dreaming out loud. And one of the women was asking for some input. She was getting great stuff, and she was trying to write it down, but she couldn't quite do that and listen at the same time. And one of the other Scribblies just grabbed her pen and pad and said, "Give me that. Give this to a professional." That's the kind of people that you want with you, because they're so anxious for you to capture your ideas. So how do you know, Andrea, whether to take something that's been suggested to you and run with it, and when just to say, thanks for sharing, and forget about it?
Well, for me, I kind of always have an idea of where I'm going to go with something. I kind of got trapped in that rabbit hole once before. Mm-hmm. So unless I know how it's going to end, I don't start it. But I know kind of where the story is going to go. And so I will write it down and think about it. But if it doesn't fit, I've had some great suggestions. Like with this coming book, somebody had mentioned after reading this one in a group, they were like, well, if this one person did this person meet this other person before this all happened? And I wasn't really sure at first. And then I'm thinking, with the way the sequel's fleshing out, it's actually a really important part of, I think they did meet. And what does that mean to this particular character and his story? So, so sometimes I do. Because, readers see different things.
Exactly. So, exactly. And you are writing for a reader. And so to get a little bit of that feedback going in is actually pretty important. And again, it belongs to you. It's ultimately yours. I had one writer friend who was doing this marvelous YA book, and she had 2 other women who were also writers, who were sort of helping her come up with ideas and so forth. When the book was published, one of them was deeply wounded because the author didn't use all of her ideas, and it actually was kind of damaging to their friendship. So we don't want blocked writers, as Julia Cameron calls them, but people who are excited for you, as you said. And there's, of course, nothing like people talking about your characters like they're real.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great. What is the best part for you of dreaming out loud with your fellow Scribblies?
I just love how everybody feels. They leave feeling so encouraged and inspired, and like you said, it's sometimes lonely writing, but it doesn't have to be. And I never feel lonely with Scribblies.
Yeah, exactly. I've had women email me the next day after one of these sessions and say I was up till 2:00 in the morning writing, and they weren't even one of the people that shared. It was just so inspiring to realize, someone cares about this.
Yeah.
And so it isn't even as much about the ideas themselves as the process. Seems like, yeah.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I agree.
Yeah. We always end one of our podcasts with a scribbling nudge, something for you to think about and ponder on your own. And this time it's going to be a little bit different. How about if you list 5 guidelines for creative conversation, for dreaming in community? What are the 5 things that are important to you? It may be some of the things we've talked about, or maybe your own, because here we are all about the writerly life that is unique to you. If you'd like some more information about this or to participate in a conversation, feel free to visit the blog at www.nancyrue.com/blog. Until next time, Scribblies, scribble on.